Hello everyone, and welcome to this live stream about the philosopher Immanuel Kant. Today we will be discussing his very influential work called The Groundwork of the Metaphysics of Morals. So I'm very happy to have you guys here. I'm excited, and this is actually a part of a challenge that I gave myself. I'm soon about to actually write an essay on the topic of modern Kantianism, but before I get into modern Kantianism, I obviously thought that I should read the basics, and this is truly the basics. So I actually gave myself a challenge, and the thing is that about 24 hours ago, I had not read a single page from this book. So I began 24 hours ago. I have some pre-knowledge, so to say, about Kant, obviously, since I quite like his philosophy as well. So if you have any questions during this live stream, just put them down and I'll try to address them as soon as possible. So, but let's dig into it. But also, before we get that, like I said, this was a challenge, and unfortunately I sort of failed the challenge because my plan was to have a complete lecture about the whole book, but when I started to create the presentation, it just got too long and I sort of ran out of time. So let's start. By the way, I hope you can hear me. Well, does it work? Hello? Yeah. I hope you can hear me. If you can't, just write down. Oh, anyways, let's begin. Kant's Groundwork of Metaphysics of Morals. Oops. There we go. So let's begin. Kant is very famous for making a twofold distinction regarding metaphysics. He thought that metaphysics consists of a twofold part, one empirical part and one rational part. And many people think that he sort of joined these two camps, so to say. Before, we really had the empirical camp that claimed that everything was just based on empirical knowledge, and then you had the rational, continental mostly part, which claimed that all knowledge was based on rational inquiry. And he sort of joined them, really, in a way. But so if we talk about the metaphysics of nature, the empirical part would be physics, for instance, and the rational part, well, it would be, I don't know, I guess he doesn't really, in this book, he don't really discuss it, what that would be, but I guess it's logic and maybe even mathematics. So, but there's also a metaphysics of morals, which is the subject of this book. And the empirical part about morals is basically anthropology. But the thing with Kant is that he claims that the empirical part is not truly morality. The only thing that is morality is the rational part. And I mean, it is easy to claim why, because if I study anthropology for quite some time, I will just realize that people have acted differently in various cultures. Therefore, I cannot conclude from these cultures a way of how I ought to act. Just because people have acted in certain ways doesn't mean that I should or ought to act as they did. So according to Kant, the rational part of the metaphysics of morals is the important part. So he basically completely discards the idea that you can empirically study morality. It is solely a necessary and metaphysical rational inquiry. So, and one of the reasons why is that empiricism or empirical inquiry is a contingent matter, because empirical studies is based upon is based upon the human part. I mean, it's based upon humanity and how our sensors central what do you say how our senses work. And our senses, we have 5 senses, they are contingent. What I mean by that is that it could have been the case that we had maybe 7 senses, for instance. But morality doesn't work like that. Morality is necessary. Therefore, morality, it has to be something metaphysical. It is something beyond our senses. I'm not sure that made sense, but we'll dig deeper into that. I think you'll get it. Kant sort of criticized the ancients, and especially I would say Aristotle. He doesn't name Aristotle by name. He doesn't name Aristotle in this book, but he talk about virtue, for instance. The thing is, according to Kant, there is one thing that is ultimately good, and that is what he calls the good will, because it is good without limits. And for something to be good without limits, it has to be metaphysical. If it's based in something empirical, it has limits, right? I, as a human, am mortal, therefore I have limits. So this is one of the reasons why he criticized Aristotle, because Aristotle thought that a morality was something that you actually study and you can become better at it. The older you get and the more you have studied morality, the more efficient you are at it. But here Kant wholeheartedly disagrees, because he thought that if morality exists, it has to be an intrinsic goodness. It cannot be something else. It cannot be conditioned by something. And he really shows this quite simply by saying that a person who is virtuous doesn't necessarily imply that they are morally good. For instance, one could say that, oh, sorry, I lost the thread there. Yeah, if someone possesses a lot of strength, for instance, strength is a virtue in a way. I don't remember the main virtues from Aristotle, but let's just say that strength is a virtue. If you use strength to hit someone, then you have used the virtue, but not out of a good will. The only thing that is good is the good will. It is an intrinsic goodness, because you can use virtues for evil virtue. I mean, you can use virtues for evil ends. Do you understand what I'm saying? Does it make sense? So, let me read you this quote here on page 10. Moderation in affects and passions, self-control and sober deliberation are not only good in many respects, they even appear to constitute part of the inner worth of a person, but they are far from deserving to be declared good without limits. Well, good without limitation, however unconditionally they were praised by the ancients. For without principles of good will they for without principles of a good will they can become most evil, and the cold blood of a scoundrel makes him not only far more dangerous, but also immediately more loathsome in our eyes than he would have been taken to be without it. So yeah, virtues is not good They are, I mean, they are good, but not good in themselves. So, yep, let's continue. Just like I said, all empirical things are contingent and therefore limited. And like I said, Kant thought that morality must possess an intrinsic goodness, otherwise it's not morality. Why would we would at least not call it moral if it is not an intrinsic good. So, and the goodwill, according to Kant, is part of what is duty. But we'll get back to duty in a second. Or I mean the goodwill, because now we're going to discuss duty. And here's the interesting thing that Kant, I think many modern people will reject this view, but we'll see what you think about it. Please leave a comment down below what you think about this, even if you're watching this after the live stream. So Kant thought that many people in this world conform with the duty. They act in accordance with duty, so to say, but without acting from duty. So you can act in a way that looks dutiful, but without it being a duty or fulfilling a duty. Let me give you an example. This example I actually got from one of my teachers. To the left, we have what I would call the dutiful doctor. And to the right, we have the fun doctor, so to say. The fun doctor, she loves her job, and she has always done so. Whenever she wakes up in the morning, she just gets up with a smile on her face because she loves her job so much. Even if things go to hell, she still loves her job. Here's the thing, she's acting solely from self-interest, right? Because she loves her job, why would she do something else? And here, let's distinguish her from what I call the dutiful doctor, or the duty doctor. Don't let his looks fools you. Let's just say that he is super talented. He is one of the most talented doctors in the world. But he hates his job. He just hates everything about it. But he sees it as his duty to help people. And he sees it as his duty to fulfill or to become, what is it called? He sees it as his duty to develop his talents, and his talent just happens to be being a doctor. Even though he hates it, he acts from duty. And according to Kant, and this is the kicker I think that many modern people don't appreciate, is that according to Kant, the fun doctor is not moral in any sense of the word, since she is solely acting from self-interest. While the duty doctor, on the other hand, he has moral worth. He is one of the most moral persons on earth, since he truly dislikes his position, but he still does it. What do you think about this? I mean, and also I would also like to add here that let's just say that the consequences from these two doctors are equal. So the amount of happiness in the world is equal. Would you still say that the dutiful doctor is a better person than the fun doctor? Anyway, let's continue. Because I sort of think that this makes sense in a way. Let's discuss a rich man, and he gives money to the poor, not because he wants, not because it is his duty, because he has money, but solely because through that he can talk to his friend at a dinner party and brag about how much money he gave to the poor. So here's the thing, that consequences here does not matter at all. The rich man basically, I mean, he creates a lot of happiness in the world because he distributes a lot of money, but he's not acting from duty. I mean, don't you know this? Don't you know that kind of person? That person that solely acts good because it makes him look good. He doesn't do it because it is good. He does it because he wants to look good. And I sort of agree with Kant here. I think he at least has a point. If a person is solely acting out of self-interest here, right? He wants to look good in front of other people, then he's not acting from duty, even if the consequences are good. So here is what Kant makes a big distinction between duties versus desires. So the empirical component, I should actually say that Kant thinks that there is an empirical component and a rational component within every human. And the empirical component could be desires, inclinations, happiness. And the thing with happiness is okay to strive for because we have a duty, actually, according to Kant, to elevate our own happiness. But as long as you do it not from self-interest, but from the duty itself. So the rational component of you is the duty. And according to Kant, the duty should always outweigh your desires. And if you do so, if you act according to the duty instead of the desire, then you create your own good will. So the definition of the good will is, if I got this correctly, is truly to act to act in accordance with duty, or I would actually say act from duty. And it is the way of respecting the self-given law. And the self-given law is the categorical imperative. We'll get to that soon. So we're still talking about the empirical component and the rational components here. So Kant makes a distinction between hypothetical imperatives and categorical imperatives. And hypothetical imperatives are basically any conditional sentence that includes a desire. For instance, if let's say that I want to be happy, then I'll buy an Aston Martin. I just love Aston Martins. I don't know. But so any that is an hypothetical imperatives. And the thing with hypothetical imperatives is that they are based on desires and whims. But the categorical imperative, on the other hand, the one that you should, or the one that you ought to act according to, is non-conditional. It simply says do, and it should be followed by all rational creatures. Just do. So the problem with hypothetical imperatives is that basically they are infinite. I mean, the whims of people are, basically infinite, right? You can desire whatever, and if you desire something and you have to do something in order to get it, I want this pen, for instance, then I just grabbed it. If I need this pen, then grab it. So we have an infinite amount of hypothetical imperatives, and they are without any moral worth whatsoever, because they are conditional, right? If something is conditional, then it's not moral, because conditional in this way, it's based on self-interest. So just like with the doctor example, the fun doctor, so to say, is acting solely from self-interest. It is conditional. Her conditional statement would be something like, if I want to be happy, then continue to do my work with being a doctor. So she's not acting from duty. And also, A hypothetical could be strictly immoral. A murderer wants to kill someone, and then he just has to figure out what conditional in order to what is it called? Oh, you get what I'm saying. And also, here's the thing why Kant doesn't like hypothetical imperatives is that they could be brought about by something else than a rational being. For instance, in the murderer case, if he wants to kill someone and then the person that he wants to kill gets run over by a car, then he didn't have to do it, but he would be happy because he accomplished his goal, but it was not brought about from himself. And as I'm constantly coming back to is the contingent property of hypothetical imperatives. Since they are based on human beings' whims, they are contingent. And they are just whims, like I said. Kant actually claims that they are all equal. All hypothetical imperatives are equal, which, many modern people would not agree here, I think. Because, like I said, Kant would actually probably even say that this murderer case is equal to the fun doctor case, which are both hypothetical. Yeah. Well, I guess the murderer is actually committing a bigger crime since he's actually breaking duties. We don't need to get into that. We'll get to that later. But the main part is that since these hypothetical imperatives are conditional sentences, they are not concerned with morality because they basically are based on either one's own self-interest or somebody else's self-interest. But morality should not be based on anyone's interest at all. So now we get to the categorical imperative. So here Kant writes, act only according to that maxim through which you can, at the same time, will that it becomes a universal law. This is the basis of Kant's whole moral philosophy. This is the one thing that you should take from this lecture. So whenever you think about doing something, you should always go back to the categorical imperative and think, what happens if I will that this maxim will become a universal law? We'll get to all of that later, actually not in today's lecture, but in the next one. And also what the meaning of a maxim is, because that is quite important. But just a few things here about duty versus desires is that here the consequences doesn't matter at all, as I've been saying. The doctor example, like I said, the consequences from both of the doctors are equal, let's say, but the doctor acting from duty is the dutiful person. He possesses moral goodness, while the fun doctor doesn't. And also, like I said, happiness don't matter. It's as long as you act from duty, you're doing the right thing. We'll dig deeper into the problems of happiness in the next episode, next live stream on this. So the only thing of moral worth is the good in itself, the categorical imperative. So what do you think about this? Let me give you this question. If someone acts from self-interest, it could still be a good thing, like giving money to the poor, but it is derived from his or her self-interest. Is he or she acting morally? What do you think? Please leave a comment down below. I would love to hear your thoughts about this, because I think many people in today would not agree with Kant. Oh, hello, Roy Chess. Glad to have you here. Hope you're enjoying the live stream. If you have any questions, just put them down. Yeah. let's get back to, yeah, the good in itself. So the thing is with the categorical imperative is that it doesn't presuppose anything really. It doesn't presuppose any desires. It doesn't even presuppose God's desire. Because some theologians will probably say that you should act according to God's will or God's desire. God desires you to act in this way. But according to Kant, as if I got his position correct, is that the categorical imperative is actually above God himself. So it doesn't even presuppose God's will, which is quite interesting. I thought this was funny because I read a book not too long ago that claimed that Kant was a Protestant Christian philosopher, and in a way that is true, but I mean, I think he quite outright just says that morality is something bigger or greater than God himself. I don't know where it is in the book exactly. I think I'll save that for the next live stream so we can discuss that one. So yeah, so the categorical imperative is metaphysical because it does not presuppose anything. That is also one important point. So we've reached the end of this live stream. It was quite a lot. I don't know what time is. Oh, almost 30 minutes. So I think it was a good choice for me to split up this session. I was first planning to do it all in one take, but it would be quite a lot. So the next time we'll talk about definitions of the definition of what Kant calls a maxim, which is quite important for the categorical imperative. Oh, thank you, Royches. No. Now I don't remember the the question anymore, but thank you for writing that. And yes, so and we'll also go through a list of specific duties that he talks about talk about perfect and imperfect duties, I think. And we'll also go a little bit into how Kant shaped the modern world. Because I truly think that there's quite a lot of things within a modern context that is based upon Kant. We may not appreciate all of his philosophy still today, but a lot of it, or not, a few things is a cornerstone in Western society, I would say. Especially the idea of kingdom of ends. We'll get to that. And then we'll also talk a little bit about why utilitarianism fails. Utilitarianism does not... utilitarianism wasn't a thing back in Kant's days. I think Bentham is after Kant. I'm pretty sure. Look that up. And then we'll also talk about the proof of the categorical imperative, and I also think that I want to dig a little bit deeper in the conception of what distinguishes necessities and contingencies. So we'll dig a little deeper into that one. Roches, I'm gonna address you. Yeah. Would duty be equivalent to the notion of intention, as in our intentions selfish? If they are, then the act is not necessarily moral. I guess moral, for instance. I ask this because the term duty may be troublesome. I wouldn't say that it is equivalent, that intention is equivalent to duty. Because you can have bad intentions, but if you act according to duty, that will always be good. You cannot possess... There is no such thing as a bad or evil duty, according to Kant. So at least that I would say it's not the same thing, at least. Having genuine intentions would be deemed good and not transactional intentional acts. As long as they come from duty, as long as the intention is not from oneself, one's own self-interest. You can have intention. I have the intention to throw the book up and down, but the thing is that it was a hypothetical imperative. If it's a hypothetical imperative, that would still be called an intention, I would say. But duty must come from the intention of the goodwill. The goodwill and duty are inseparable, I think. Oh, having genuine intention would be deemed good, and not transactional intentional acts. Transactional meaning, if you do X for me, I will do Y for you. No, that is not a duty according to Kant. There's no transactional nature here. Like I said, that would be a hypothetical imperative in this case, because I'm doing something in order to get something else from you. It's a transactional nature here. The main thing with the categorical imperative is that it is simply says just follow your duty. It cannot come from my own self-interest. And if I buy something from someone, I have an intention to gain something from the transaction. So that is self interest. I hope that makes sense. But thank you so much for all those comments, making this live stream a bit more alive. I love it. Thank you so much for that. So, let's see. Well, I think I'm going to end the live stream there. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. It's been my pleasure, and I'm not sure when the next live stream will be. Sometime next week. I think I'm going to need a day off tomorrow. These 24 hours of reading Kant have been a blast, but I'm quite tired. I'm actually going now to a party. So, thank you so much, Roy Chess, for hanging out, and take care, everyone, and I'll see you guys soon.